I just want to listen to a singular Beatles song. Just one. Is that too much? Is that too much to ask? Hi, I'm Lars, and this is my land. Today I'm going to see how much of a Beatles song I can sneak into a video without tripping the system, and you're going to watch because I think it's kind of interesting, also because it's my land. Quickly, this is a YouTube version of my semi-weekly song breakdowns that I do on my Patreon where they get to listen to the whole song. That's where I have more than 20 hours of bonus footage where we can listen, watch, talk about things that we can't say here. So if you want to consider supporting me, go to patreon.com/LarsLand. Please like, subscribe, comment, and I made a 7-hour video on the TV show Lost. If I don't mention it in every video I do, I will be torched as an effigy by my ex-best friend, and that's just kind of sad, kind of a bummer. So anyway, like, subscribe, comment, let's go. I wanted to play this boy because it's been stuck in my head for some reason. It probably has something to do with the fact that it was on the Beatles 64 documentary and I watched that a lot. I've been singing it today while doing chores.
Oh, when this boy
A lot. We've all been there.
would be happy
I am so sorry to my cat.
till he's seen you cry.
Sorry, Jack. Hi, right, Jack? Yep. This boy was released as a B-side to I Want to Hold Your Hand on November 29th, 1963, which you might think, Lars, why don't you play I Want to Hold Your Hand? Because I think maybe this boy will be better at, not tripping the system.
That boy.
Not that any Beatles song is against it. It's just I feel like the more prominent ones have given me a lot of problems. Think Strawberry Fields Forever. Huge issues. Playing more than 3 seconds of the music video has gotten me tripped before. You know that rattle your jewelry thing? I used an example of that in the Ruddles video. It cuts into the rattle your jewelry, and then I said something in the middle. I said it was really well received during that time, and then I put in John giggling right after that, and that tripped the system. It wasn't even playing the music. So I think maybe we'll get away with more. The rule is 3 to 5 seconds.
Took my love away.
I didn't make the rule. I certainly didn't. When I started, just 2 years ago, it was 3 to 7. They've gotten meaner about it since. So this is how we do things for song breakdowns. I'm going to tell you about the song and do some readings from experts, staff, and the bugs themselves. Interspersed throughout the readings will be bits of the songs, laughing and reacting. It's jumpy. It's probably my biggest criticism of all my videos is that my editing is annoying.
You'll regret it someday.
You know what I said about it being my land, you can see yourself off. I have to follow the rules. I got to stick it to the man. And I like to be all over the place, baby. I've got ADHD. If you like being bored and having low energy, go elsewhere. That's not what we do here. We have fun here. So we're going to listen to this boy.
But this boy wants you back.
And we're also going to listen to the fun, kind of jokey versions, little clips of this boy recordings.
That boy.
This song was recorded at Abbey Road Studios on October 17th, 1963, and it took 17 takes. It was mixed on October 21st, 1963. Produced by George Martin, sound engineer was Norman Smith, and the assistant engineer was Jeff Emmerich, which we'll hear from in a minute. And I have beat this book to hell, man, but I've read it a lot. It's very helpful.
Again.
Obviously, on this song was John, who was vocals and rhythm guitar, Paul was vocals and bass, George was vocals and lead guitar, and Ringo was drums. The noticeable doo-wop vibe of this song was an homage to Smokey and the Robinson 50s type pop, a couple other groups, taking the traditional feeling of a doo-wop love song, but also coming in with a gritty, angsty, sort of young love lyric, but in the middle with John saying, this boy, he'd be happy just to love you, but that boy won't be happy till he sees you cry. Whether or not the real John Lennon always felt that way, you believe it in the music.
Till he's seen you cry.
And George, Paul, and John together with this trio of harmonies really solidifies how strong these three are as a unit. They went on to perform this song often live, which brought the three of them together on the mic. Now, I have a live show, but it's from the Wise and Morecambe show or Morecambe show, depending on how British you are. They are separated on the mics, but we often do see the three of them together while performing it. It brings a sort of chemistry that you don't find in other groups, but definitely it's nice to see all three of them together, even with how magical all of the Beatles performances are. Them together, heads together during a song, there's something really powerful about it. According to All the Songs by Jean-Michel Gaston and Philippe Margotin, this was one of the few songs written by the Beatles that had a vocal trio harmony in mind amongst Because and Yes It Is.
Isn't good for you.
The most surprising thing was the main writer of these songs was John. Quote, "I think some of my own songs in my life, this boy, I was writing melody with the best of them," end quote. This is how he justified himself in 1980 to counter his image as a tough rocker. One of the influences on this boy was probably Smokey Robinson in the Miracle songs, "I've Been Good to You." Which came out on December 14th, 1961. So, like I said earlier, 1950s, also 1960s. Like, relax, I'm sure I got a comment about it already. On side B of What's So Good About Goodbye, John said, "Just my attempt at writing one of those three-part harmony Smokey Robinson songs. Nothing in the lyrics, just a sound and harmony." I love this book, by the way. They have a lot of fun little tidbits. So here's For Beatles Fanatics. A collection of Beatles oldies was the first Beatles compilation. It came out on December 9th, 1966 in the United Kingdom to appease fans during the lengthy delay between Revolver and Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. Bad Boy is a song that had only been released in the United States on the June 1964 album Beatles 6, was supposed to appear on the collection in stereo. However, during the establishment of the track listing, the staff of Abbey Road read that as This Boy instead of Bad Boy. Being disciplined employees, they promptly pulled out the master tape for This Boy, dated from 1963. Luckily, the mistake was caught in time. Very interesting, which I did not know until I read this earlier.
Though he may want you to.
This is from Revolution in the Head by Ian MacDonald. Got it right here. Like its British A-side, I Want to Hold Your Hand, This Boy is a mood piece of little meaning. Lennon admitted that there was nothing in the lyrics, just a sound and a harmony. The allusion is, again, to doo-wop, with a special reference to the early records of Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, whose characteristic sobbing climaxes are echoed in the melodramatic middle eight. With its warm major sevenths, This Boy adapted a traditional 50s pop model and became the feature of the Beatles act during 1964, owing to the three-part close harmony which brought Lennon, McCartney, and Harrison to the microphone as a unit, and it is a dazzling performance. But if the gentle reproach of the song's falling major seconds, a doo-wop hallmark, acquits it of the charge of unadulterated kitsch, the overall effect is of tweeness unrelieved by a formulaic teen lyric.
This boy wants you back again.
Using drums only in the middle eight, the arrangement takes its slightly unsteady 12/8 pulse from a blend of pattering hi-hat and acoustic guitar, recorded with faint repeat echo on the left channel. This leaves the voices crammed onto the right channel, their heavy reverb leaking into the center of the sound picture. Lennon's solo spot in the middle eight is, moreover, brutally cut off in the edit. An amusing excerpt from the session for this song, with Harrison and McCartney continually mixing up their this boys and that boys, was issued with Free as a... Bird. This is from Counting Down the Beatles by Jim Paviglia. He says, "This Boy is indeed a slow-moving song rendered with heart-rending emotion, which certainly would seem to categorize it as a ballad. Certainly John Lennon, who appears to have been the song's principal writer, although Paul McCartney has also claimed it was a pretty strict co-write, understood that it was an early display of songwriting versatility that even he didn't know he possessed. In an interview, he cited the song as an example that he was adept at writing melodies in the early days, even when he felt he was only good at writing rock and roll ravers. The melody melody of This Boy is somewhat understated in the verses, on the verge of placid. What melodic punch there is comes from the three-part harmonies. The first time the Beatles utilized this technique, to which they would return throughout their career with great success. McCartney on the high end does wander a bit with his vocal, just as his bass notes also tend to step out of the straightforward pluck of George Harrison's trebly guitar.
Could be happy.
But otherwise, those verses are slow strolls in a relatively straight line. This flatline approach is effective because it sets us up perfectly for the emotional crescendo in the middle eight. As soon as John Lennon sings, "Oh, and," to cut out the second verse, you sense a change. The music starts to build in intensity. Lennon takes the vocal solo, albeit double-tracked, and McCartney and Harrison step away to sing wordless backing vocals, ever rising up the scale. Lennon's vocal in this portion of the song is a showstopper. Yes, he had learned well from Smokey Robinson and other soul belters.
After all, I've been good to you.
But the aching, authentic feeling that he displays here is something that can't be learned or taught. The entire segment is breathtaking, culminating with Lennon turning cry into a 6-syllable word as everybody stands back and lets him have his moment.
Just to love you.
This is from Paul McCartney Many Years From Now by Barry Miles. Paul says, "This Boy was another hotel bedroom song, twin beds one afternoon somewhere. We had arrived around 1 o'clock. We had a couple of hours to kill, so we thought, well, let's write one. Rather like the hotel where we wrote She Loves You. It's funny. I remember the room and the position of the beds. John and I sitting on twin beds, the G-plan furniture, the British hotel with olive green and orange everywhere, that marvelous combination, the colors of vomit." It was very co-written. We wanted to do a close harmony thing. We liked harmonies and we were quite good at them. We used to do a close harmony version of the Teddy Bears' To Know Her Is to Love Her.
To know him is to love him.
Which was good for the versatility in the band. We weren't all rock and roll. We could change the pace, which was always nice after you'd play for 3 hours. So this was our attempt to write one of those. We wrote it in 2-part harmony and then we put the third part in for George to sing. That was quite a departure for us, the close harmony thing. We never actually tried to write something like that. Nice middle, John sang that great, and then we'd go back to the close harmony thing. It was one of those. This boy says that boy. I like this. Barry Miles goes on to say, because they had no knowledge of music theory, they didn't know when they were breaking the rules, or for that matter, when they were doing something really clever. This is from the Beatles anthology book. George says, "This Boy was one of our 3-part harmony numbers. There were a lot of harmony songs around. Harmony in Western music is natural. Paul claimed that his father taught us 3-part harmony, but that's not really the case from my memory. When you think back to early rock and roll, there was always stuff by like Frankie Lemon and the Teenagers, the Everly Brothers, the Platters. Everybody had harmonies. It was natural to sing a harmony sometimes. With the Everlys, it was a permanent thing." One thing that I think is important to remember that as I'm going through these readings, these guys contradict each other. It's just part of it, you know, one being interviewed about a subject so intensely for so long and having conflicting memories and also conflicts between each other, wanting to take credit, wanting to insert yourself in part of the story. That's something that we see from Paul and John all the time. I'm not the arbiter of truth, neither are you. So that is why I always read all of it. That's something that you'll see in my upcoming White Album video. I still haven't started it. I'm working on the script right now. It's 107 pages, so hold your horses. It's coming eventually. But there's a lot of conflicting information. That's part of the truth. It has many, many sides, and most of it is real. Most of it is true because of the way something happened, because of the way something is interpreted, or because of the way that things fell out afterward. We all know this too well. Paul says, "I'm sure we paid attention to critics, so that's a golden memory for me. Criticism didn't really stop us. It shouldn't ever stop anyone. I need to take that advice. Because critics are the only people who can't get a record deal themselves." Later, William Mann in the Times wrote of the descending Aeolian cadence in our song Not a Second Time and the pandiatonic.
This topic, pandiatonic tonicism.
Clusters that came flying out of us at the end of This Boy. We hadn't really been conscious of any of that. We just did our songs in hotel rooms whenever we had a spare moment, John and I, sitting on twin beds and guitars, he on one bed, me on another. John actually backed that up, and this is from Barry Miles many years from now, Paul McCartney's book. Aeolian cadences became part of the Beatles' legend, much mentioned by the tabloid press. In 1980, John commented, "To this day, I don't have any idea what they are. They sound like exotic birds." And let's hear from Jeff Emmerich about the night of recording, which I love this story. He says, the song recorded that evening, he's talking about after they recorded I Want to Hold Your Hand. By the way, if you can hear meows, that's my cat, Jack. He's interrupting.
Would always feel.
The song recorded that evening, This Boy, was a departure for the group, and it took quite a long time to perfect. There was a lot of tweaking because it was a pretty complicated song sung in intricate 3-part harmony that George Martin, with considerable input from Paul, kept refining. George spent a lot of time at the piano with Lennon, McCartney, and Harrison, carefully checking each part they were singing and occasionally suggesting that a note be changed. Through the whole process, Ringo, who didn't sing on the track, he rarely sang harmony at all, sat at the back of the studio smoking a ciggy and reading a comic book. Sonically, the two recordings couldn't be more different. He's talking about I Want to Hold Your Hand again. Dude. It's remarkable, in fact, that they were both done during the same session. This Boy is distinguished by its gentle clarity and separation. You can hear every note of every instrument, while I Want to Hold Your Hand is more of a wash of sound, a bombardment of the senses. Of course, This Boy is almost entirely acoustic, just bass and a little strummed guitar played by Lennon. There are no thrashing drums, so there was no drum bleed on the vocal mic, which gave it a very clean sound. The drum screens at EMI were quite primitive and hardly soundproof. They were just pieces of particle board with some burlap nailed on.
If this boy gets you back again.
But what was most impressive about the recording of This Boy was that the three Beatles sang it impeccably, in perfect 3-part harmony almost every time, from first take to last. John, Paul, and George's ability to pull off complex harmony vocals was really quite astounding. You could see that they'd spent a lot of time rehearsing. Not just getting the notes correct, but getting their voices to blend just right. That's where all of those years of playing together really paid off. Once the vocals were recorded, however, there was another snag. Harrison's overdubbed guitar solo, which was particularly uninspired. George Martin didn't like it one bit. And insisted on substituting vocals during the middle section instead, which was a good thing because John did an incredible job of singing them and an even more brilliant job of double tracking his heartfelt performance, hitting every pitch and inflection spot on. Unfortunately, the editing job Norman did later that night was not up to his usual standard, and especially on CD, it's obvious that the middle section was recorded separately and spliced in. I think that they've kind of remedied that issue in later remixes. And if you guys think that it sounds jarring still to this day, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Told you I'm going to get you out of here early. I love that song, and I know that you guys love it too, even if you don't want to admit it. So I don't know. How well did I do at tricking the system? Future Lars, come in here and let me know. Okay, so this is my first attempt, but all of the orange is the song cut up into it. So I'm not sure. And then I go on a little bit of a rant for the White Album. And yeah, I could include it, but I don't think anybody's going to listen to it. So I did not put the song in there. So we'll see. If this is the only update, then this is the only one I had to do. But that's how I had to do it. And the purple and the blue are Smokey Robinson, and to know him is to love him. Okay. Good luck to me. Hopefully I didn't have to fight with the copyright gods too much, but we all know that I'm always up for a little bit of a scrap. And by the way, you guys asked for Backbeat, the movie, a reaction to the movie Backbeat. You're getting Backbeat. It's coming, okay? How much of the Hamburg breakdown with Stu, Astrid, and Klaus will be in the video, like historically, is questionable at this point, just because if you are a regular here, you know that I am sick. I was really sick during the Beatles 64 video, and I am still sick. I got better, and now I'm sick again. It's weird. I'm not like dying. I'm not saying that, but I am ill and I have an autoimmune disorder and I'm just going through it right now. So send me your good vibes, send me your peace and love or whatever else, because Lars is struggling on the struggle bus, 4 months of struggle bus, okay? But we're getting through it. Backbeat is surprisingly difficult to find. Once I have it, we'll watch it, okay? Okay. Skip if you want to skip this, that's fine. Like, I spend the rest of the time just talking about the White Album video, and then I tell you to like and subscribe, and then I see you later. That's it. Sorry. I needed to rant, and you guys are the ones who are going to listen to it, so sucks to suck, I guess. I'm working on the White Album video, as I mentioned before. Right now, I'm still on the script, but I've done a lot of, like, pre-work. The editing is going to be... I don't know how complex I'm going to go with it. It's more about the content of the video. I've been working on it since October-ish, but I started thinking about it in September. Like, the emotional chunk that broke me was for about a month period of October to November, when I was like, I can't do this. It's hurting my heart, my little baby heart. And that's when I decided to pull the plug on it. I'd already started filming. I've already filmed the listen through, which I'm going to use the same listen through, because when I listened through it, I hadn't done all of my research yet. And I was at the point where I knew if I had done all of it before listening to the album, that it was going to change the way I enjoyed the songs. And I didn't want that to happen. I just wanted to be bopping around. That being said, I still enjoy the songs, but it's a good thing I did it that way, because while I was working on the White Album for like a good chunk of time, I was crying every time I was working on it. It was insane. Now we're better. Now we're working on it. Now I'm feeling really inspired, excited, a little controversial. Unlike at the beginning of my Yellow Submarine album video, I made all these apologies. I'm making no fucking apologies for the White Album video. I'm going to piss off people. I know that I am, because I'm going to be talking about the women. I'm going to be talking about Yoko. I'm going to be talking about all sides of that conversation. The racism, sexism, the controlling nature of the relationship with John. And I'm going to talk about the bad sides of Yoko and the bad sides of how the Beatles treated her. And something I say in the intro is that nobody looks good. There's a point in the process where every single person looks bad, and then paragraphs later, it's completely forgotten, whether it be because of music or because of fulfilling contractual obligations. The Beatles were really good at not apologizing and forgetting and moving on and pretending that everything was okay. And that is not a way to get through closure. So I know that I'm going to piss people off. I'm probably going to get someone who, for some reason, doesn't like me, but stuck around to the end of this video, heard that and wants to say something about Yoko, positive or negative. I think that she gets too much criticism and too much praise on both sides of things. And I think that if you're going to go on the criticism way, there's no way to do it without being called racist and sexist. And if you praise her, there's no way to do it without being called all kinds of other things like idiot and naive. So I decide to do all of it because if nothing else, I am thorough. The basic journalistic tenet is to seek the truth and report it. And like I said earlier in this video, the truth is a many-faceted thing. It's particularly difficult. That's all I had to say about the White Album. Just had some thoughts. Oh. All right, like this video, subscribe, comment if you're nasty. Go check out my Patreon, where I have more than 20 hours of bonus footage where we get to listen, talk, and watch things that we can't do here. Patreon.com/Larsland. And I love y'all so much. And y'all come back now, you hear? Bye.
My sweet Lord. My Lord. My Lord. But it takes so long, my Lord. My sweet Lord.
That little bitch, she a